Growing up, there were a lot of teen shows that came on TV. Shows like All That, The Amanda Show, and many others always kept me entertained. There was always one show that I looked forward to watching and I never wanted to miss. Hey, I'm Didi Conway, and let me ask you a question. Do you remember Kenan and Kel? Kenan and Kel starred Kenan Thompson and Kel Mitchell in a live-action TV show for teens. Kenan is the smarter of the two, and he always comes up with many different schemes to get money or, impress some type of girl, because that's what teenagers do at that age. Most of the show would usually end up being about whatever shiesty-ass scheme Kenan could come up with. I swear, you couldn't watch this show and tell me that Kenan wasn't a black version of Eddie from Ed, Ed, and Eddie. And I only say this because he had a scheme for every fucking thing. Like, if you wanted it, you can guarantee Kenan would have a scheme for it. Kenan is the self-centered lead of the show, and he only gives a fuck about himself. Sometimes. However, there are some episodes where if you keep watching, you will see him put other people before him. That shit only lasted a hot minute, because once every episode came to an end, he would literally hit like the reset button on all that shit he learned and revert back to the same shit, same scheming. Kenan would proceed to go on and do the same shit for 4 seasons. Sometimes it used to seem like other characters on this show had no type of intellect, no type of smarts, however you want to put it. Everyone on this show had to be dumb as hell when it came to Kenan and his ideas, because the only reason why Kenan even got caught for half of the stuff is because of Kel's dumbass. Kel is a dumbass accomplice to Kenan. His character is just there for comic relief and to mess up Kenan's plans, whether it's on purpose or whether it's intentionally. I honestly don't think Kel grasps a lot of Kenan's schemes. I could never fully tell if he totally understood Kenan's plan, or maybe he just understood him but didn't get the intent or the seriousness behind the intent Kenan had. Kel is the clown of the two boys, and you can totally count on him to fuck up everything. He was a character strictly placed in this show just to be over the top. And that works, because I remember tuning in as a kid and wondering, how the fuck does Kel throw himself into anything like that? It could be a wall, it could be anything. Kel throwing himself around basically like a crash dummy was funny as hell to me as a kid. The show did have other characters, such as the dad, who was scary as fuck to me, but he was stern, and it helped with the dynamic of the show, because Kenan definitely need a stern but loving parent. Then you have the mother of the show, who was really just more the voice of reasoning behind everything. She had no real character development, just like the father, but her effect was just like giving motherly speeches. One of the biggest reasons I love Kenan Kel was because it never took itself too serious. I believe we live in a day and age now where every show that pretty much comes on panders to how people feel. They aren't very genuine, and Kenan and Kel pretty much stayed the same, and they stayed away from politics and a lot of other serious topics that most shows would cover. It's always good to have infomercials and that type of thing, but I love Kenan and Kel because it really let me stay in the mind of a child. I didn't want a special episode focusing on serious shit, and I damn sure didn't want a weak-ass PSA informing me of some shit that I really didn't care about. Wasn't that type of show, and it was just a good feel-good show that was just for shits and giggles. Kenan and Kel will always hold a special place in my heart because it's set up for me to be entertained and laugh. Not overly complex, simple but effective. I also think Kenan and Kel was great for people that look like me. Although not always about race, being a young black kid around this time where there weren't a lot of shows that gave great representation of African Americans. It was great because I got to see someone that looked like me and dress similar to how I would dress. I always love tuning in and hear the amazing ass theme song by Coolio, and to see what the boys will have on just from episode to episode.
Everybody out there, go run and tell your homeboys and homegirls it's time for Kenan and Kel to keep you laughing in the after.
This show played such a big role in my life, so much so that anytime I see orange soda, no matter what flavor it is, seeing orange soda immediately consciously brings the voice to my head that goes, who loves orange soda?
Who loves the person that gave me this bottle of orange soda? I do.
Man, don't even get me started on the many times that I sit and just consciously randomly yell, why, like Kenan used to.
Hey, man, what'd you do? I closed the door. Why?
The only downside to Kenan and Kel was the fact that it was a repetitive ass show. Kenan comes up with the plan and goes wrong because Kel's being stupid or Kenan. They learn from it and they do all of that shit right over again in the next episode. Shit. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. This show wasn't meant to have great depth to it. It was meant for people to take a break from life, cut the brain off, and just entertain themselves. No thinking at all. Shows now get away from the fact that they are supposed to entertain. And they forget the fact that art doesn't always have to be extremely deep. Kenan and Kel was and will always be one of my favorite shows of all time. Its legendary quotes and moments are some that all of us grew up on and will never forget.